We've now walked a little bit farther down the valley, and what you can see is that we have these same sort of, cacti and other plants, of course, so the charismatic ecology. Plus, if we go back to the channel, and especially if I pan down, including all the way down, including my foot here, which is in shadow, so foot goes out there. What you can see is that we have mostly these gray rocks, and these are of the Punca Viscana group. So these are all the Precambrian schists. So you can see the foliations, patterns on the rocks, including the small ones. And as we look up valley, still mostly the schists, with just some small little kind of white bits, and those are the bits of weathered out granite. Well, so how in the world is this when we're surrounded by walls of granitic rock? I think most likely that we're seeing some signs of the granite really mostly weathering into sand, although also creating large boulders in this area. Well, we wonder a couple things. One of them is related to the weathering of the processes of the granite and its conversion into sand, and then the other one is related to the size of those boulders. So what we just did was walk up to this wall here. It's in shadow, so I'm going to come closer, so hopefully the camera readjusts. Aha, perfect. Good. And so what you can see is that we have different fractures, both vertically and horizontally. I'll just pan the camera across with my feet. And so these fractures and the spacings between them that you can see here are created by the tectonic action on these rocks. And these, in fact, are creating the initial sizes of the rocks, right? The rocks, when they first are removed from this wall, can really be no bigger than these fractures because they already have these pre-existing partings that are separating one from the other. So what we did was place two measuring tapes across this wall, one basically going perpendicular to the main line of the fractures, and the other one going perpendicular to that first tape. So hopefully in the direction in which we have the fewest fractures. And of course, these sorts of things aren't perfect because we have multiple different tectonic events here. So we have these vertical fractures there. But then over here, the fractures start to appear at an angle. Well, it still is an okay approximation of the sizes of the initial rocks that might come out of this. But a second thing that we do is that I took my camera and took pictures from all different angles and distances across the outcrop, where a colleague is going to use structure for motion, so basically using the images to create a 3D map of the rock surface. From this, our goal is to know how big these rocks are when they break down. Also, knowing the spacing between the fractures tells us all the points at which fluids can access the granite and also start to weather it in place, creating this gravel. And from this, we hope to understand a little bit better the supply of sediment to this channel. This is important because if we have gravels that come into the channel as gravel as opposed to sand, the channel will often be steeper. If we have gravels that break down slowly, that steepness will persist for a longer period of time, and those gravels could even cause the channels to aggrade. Sand generally moves more efficiently through channels, especially ones that are confined by bedrock, where the flows can become deep. Or confined by muddy banks, where the flows can also become deep and we can have high stresses compared to the threshold to start moving and transporting sand on the bed. Therefore, if we have more sand entering the channel can degrade, and the river can actually start acting on the bedrock. And if we have more gravel entering the bed, in this case, you see the bed is filled with gravel, the bedrock won't be exposed at very many points, and the valley might fill up. I think that's all for now, so I'll give you one last shot across the cacti in this beautiful desert landscape in this tributary to the Tastil River in northwestern Argentina. Until the next stop.